Okay, next, let's move on and talk about the synthesizers built into Live. Okay, so these are all the things we find under Instruments tab. Or actually, not all of them. There are a few things in the Instrument tab that we wouldn't really call synthesizers, we would call them samplers. So the Instruments tab in the browser is all our synths and samplers. I think it's probably everything. Um, Instrument rack is a little bit different. We'll talk about that shortly. Um, Another way to think about it is instruments in live lingo is everything that can generate sound. So synthesizers, anything like that that we can queue up with MIDI. So in this section, we're just going to do a couple videos on walking through kind of how to use these in general. In the next class, we're going to go through the nitty gritty of every single one of these. But I just want to get us making some sound first. So we've already gone over kind of the basics of how they work. Let me make something new here. So I'm going to make a new MIDI track, Command-Shift-T. So I have a new MIDI track here. Let's make a MIDI clip here. Let's just take this MIDI clip and I'm gonna option click and drag it down to right here where it says big section up there, big section. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna look at my MIDI clip and I want to do something different with it. Let's let's just double all the lengths of this. So I'm gonna select all times 2. Boom. Now I'm going to open up that clip a little bit more so we see the whole thing. Okay, so now this clip is moving half speed of the original clip. That's cool. I did that just because I want to create some variation in this here. Now let's loop this section. So I'm going to select this area and it's Command L because we're going to work on this for a few minutes. Okay, now as you know, if I hit play, I'm not going to hear this, right? Because there's no instrument on it. We can look right here and see it's only got MIDI notes happening. So let's throw a little sound on it. I could use any of these and I can either just throw the instrument default onto that patch, or of course I can just hit return, or I can open it up and look at some of the presets. Okay, so let's look at, well, we're looking at the analog instrument here. So let's go to pad. A pad sound is like a kind of slowly evolving sound. It's like the opposite of a percussion sound. Let's do that one. So I'm going to drag that preset right on to my track. And now I have that instrument with that preset loaded up. And now I'll be able to hear it. Okay, cool. Interesting thing to note, you can only have one instrument on a track. Okay, so that's why I made a new track when I did this, because I have instruments on these tracks already. If I wanted to use those same instruments, I could just put the MIDI clip on it. But if I want to load a new instrument, it's got to be on a new track. Now there is an exception to that. You can group instruments together using an instrument rack. More on that later. But if you're not doing that, just remember that in almost all cases, you can only have one instrument per track. Okay, so let's talk about some quick ways to make an interesting sound using layering, and we'll talk about kind of doing a quick conversion of this to an audio file.